Stephen Moore, former Trump senior economic advisor, and John Hart, CEO of Open the Books. All right, John, I try to make this as simple as possible, but it seems like some people that are reporting on this still don't get it.
Yeah, they don't. Look, I think if you want to grow the economy, you want to do three things, and I'm sure Steve is going to weigh in on this too. You want to cut taxes, you want to reduce regulation, and you want to cut spending. Larry Summers, who is President Clinton's Treasury Secretary and an advisor to Barack Obama, he warned that Biden's stimulus would drive up inflation. Well, he was exactly right. So the opposite is also true. If you cut spending, you create an economic stimulus because you get more money out of Washington, out of waste, misallocation of capital back into the sector. So it is going to take time for these numbers to turn. But I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, Steve, the other thing on this is people don't understand that cutting government jobs and still only decreasing by 0.3%, this is a huge feat.
It is. I thought you did a great job, Carl, of explaining that. A lot of Americans are surprised. I don't even know why we count government spending as part of GDP, because government spending is negative for the economy, not positive. So Biden, all of Biden's numbers were fake numbers, as you just said. The employment numbers, employment was up because we hired all these additional government workers. GDP, that was up because government was the fastest expanding portion of the economy. I thought this report, all in all, wasn't, nobody ever wants to see a negative GDP. But the fact is, if you took out the growth of government, we were practically flat.
Yeah.
It is the residual effect of the Biden policies. And I want to remind people, it took Reagan, when he took over from Jimmy Carter in 1981, it took Reagan 13, 14 months to sweat the inflation out of the system. And then we had the biggest economic boom in American history. I'm predicting that's exactly what you're going to see with Trump. You're going to see it take some time to sweat out all the inefficiencies, and then you get the big boom. And we saw it in the first term. I think we'll see it again in the second term.
Well, John, Jameson Greer, the U.S. trade representative, said this during Trump's cabinet meeting today. Roll this.
They said you wouldn't be able to do global tariffs. We did it. They said everyone would retaliate. No one retaliated outside of China. They said no one would come to negotiate. We're talking to dozens of countries. They said no one would have offers. We have dozens of written offers. We have lots of countries in this week.
All these people who said a trade war, John, and now we have 70 nations coming to the table, and we have, two, I think, done. They're just waiting on final approval.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to do is reestablish truly free trade and what I would call friend trade, where you trade and make sure it's fair and you create opportunity for American companies and workers. But Carl, your point about the rock, I think I would describe it as a wall, is that this is going to take time because the progressive left has spent 100 years building a bureaucratic wall that has separated government from we the people. And it's going to take more than 100 days to dismantle that. But we're on a good path. And transparency is one of the things that's going to do that.
Yeah, well, Steve, actually, that's an interesting point. J.B. Pritzker was out and he gave this speech and he was like, they're supposed to give us all this money back. It's owed to us, which it's not. And he's like, I can't get anybody on the government who knows what they're talking about or will pay any attention to me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, gee, that's how most of we the people have felt for years.
I just have to laugh. You may not know, Carl, but I'm from Illinois. And, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, Illinois was a pretty prosperous state. And then you see these idiots like J.B. Pritzker, maybe the worst governor in America. And he's considered a leading horse for the Democrats in 2028, only to be surpassed by Gavin Newsom, who's the second worst governor of America. So the Democrats are truly, what is their message today on the economy? Raise taxes, more government spending. It's more Bidenomics, and they haven't learned their lesson yet.
Yeah, no, it's all wrong. None of these people know what they're talking about. It's very interesting. All right, John, Steve, appreciate you stopping by.